It was a lovely morning, and I was expecting a package from my father. You see, I happened to ask my father for some clothes and maybe a little something or two. I mean, my father always sends me stuff that I may need or want, despite the fact that he rarely talks to me. It gets exciting to hear from him. I live in a different state than him, so it's hard to keep in touch, especially since we're both busy most of the time. Well, when I finally got the package, I grew so happy. I opened it up and was excited when I opened it. The first thing I saw laying on top was a red Game Boy SP. On top of that was a Game Boy Color game. The sticker was colored over with a permanent red marker, but I could name a few that had metallic gray on there. I mean, it practically sparkles. I could pretty much guess what game it is. The idea makes me smile. I used to have a game like that when I was younger. However, it got stolen. I knew it was silver version. I grew very excited and couldn't wait to put it in and play it. I hope I still had my old DS charger. I'm happy to get this game back. I mean, I got Soul Silver to make up what I had lost and wanted, but it isn't the same. So this happens to cheer me up very much. I loved it. I decided to play it after I finished looking at the box. Once everything was settled, I decided to play the game before bed. It seemed like an exciting game to play, and I was excited to have Silver back. I love Lugia, so Soul Silver and Silver have always been my preferences. I like Ho-Oh too. It's pretty at all, but not that much. No offense to Ho-Oh lovers. Anyway, I placed in the game and everything seemed to be just fine. I mean, the opening title and everything is fine, but what it said when I pressed continue caught me off guard. You can't join us. You can't join us? I repeated, confused. Already, I suspected it's a hacked game, and that sort of made me disappointed. I wanted to play the original Silver game itself, not some hacked game. I mean, yeah, hacked games are neat, but it's not what I was craving to play. I'm just curious, though. I mean, most hacked games could make you jump just like that, so I wonder how this hacked game could play out. I decided to play through this more to see how it could play out, so I pressed new game. A text box came up with an unusual opening. I want my best friend back. It faded into your room instead of the usual opening and crap like that. It didn't even name my character. However, I perked up to see who I'm actually playing, and it just got me a little excited. I was playing the rival, Silver. I loved Silver. He'd always been a favorite of my rivals. I mean, Blue is nicer than him, but Silver's actually pretty cool once you get to know him. There he was, laying in Gold's bed. Without controlling him, he walked out of bed and stood there for a few seconds before a text box popped up. I gotta visit him today. Him? Him who? Gold? Don't tell me he moved out or something. I mean, something must have happened to him. I mean, who is Silver talking about? After a while, I was able to move him. I walked downstairs only to find Gold's mom there. I walked up to her and decided to talk to her. It just feels so painful that he won't. She stopped right there. Confused, I decided to talk to her again. I'm sorry. I kept talking to her, and she said the same thing over and over. So I ignored her and continued with the game. I walked outside and a girl NPC walked up to me and grew a bit shocked. She was Crystal. Crystal only appeared in the Crystal version as a female counterpart. She wouldn't appear in Silver nor Gold, so this was certainly a bit shocking. She merely stood there for a few seconds before a text box came up. Silver. I decided to follow in Gold's footsteps and become a Pokemon trainer. Don't worry, I won't follow him all the way. She turned and took 2 steps before stopping. Another text box appeared. He's in Lavender Town. Go. Visit him. She walked out of the screenshot. Relief came over me as this thought comes to mind. This game takes place 3 years after the red and blue versions, and Lavender Tower has been moved to the Gold and Silver games and replaced with a radio tower. So the Pokemon Ghost Tower from Lavender doesn't exist. So my biggest guess is that Gold might have moved out, or this hacker is pretty dumb for not knowing that he didn't replace the Ghost Tower like in Gold and Silver. However, since this is a hack, anything could happen at any moment, so I continued on. I checked everything on Silver to see if anything was out of order. Nothing out of the ordinary. His trainer card is okay. Same sprite was used when you battle your rival. However, he looked less smug than usual. I shrugged it off. He must be part of the hack. I continued until I checked his party. He had a level 60 Feraligatr and a level 58 Crobat. Huh. Sounds like they're part of his team from the Heart Gold Soul Silver series. Well, I can't argue with that. I checked their moves, and I found that Feraligatr knows Surf and Crobat knows Fly. Well, sounds like a plan to me. I mean, I am next to Kanto. It's just a surf away. So I walked over to the water and surfed to Kanto and chose to fly. Fly to Lavender Town. I tried to choose another town, but Silver would say, not there. So I chose Lavender Town. Once there, I walked up to the tower and walked inside. To my surprise, it was actually the old ghost tower that everyone knows. Yeah, I know most creepypastas are based around Lavender Town. It annoyed me to no end, but I decided to continue. Anyways, I mean, what's the harm for one more hack added to this collection? Anyway, I walked up the stairs and into the tower. It had its usual shape in the red and blue versions, and it held its usual gray color. What's different is that there was no one there, and there wasn't even a sound. Not even bumping noises it makes when you walk into the wall. I kept walking until I reached the top floor. It was way different than how it usually is. It was just a small empty room with only 4 graves, 3 up top and 1 in the middle down below. They were perfectly right there in the middle of the room, and without me controlling him, Silver walked up slowly to the middle grave sticking out below. He stood there for a while. I thought the game froze, but when I pressed A text box came up. I miss you. He walked up to the grave and I pressed A again. I wish you would come back to me. He stood there for a moment and he turned away and started to walk away slowly when a Pokemon stopped him. I was a bit shocked to find that it was an unknown shape. Maybe it was an unknown. However, Silver pushed the Pokemon like how he pushed Gold, Crystal, and Lyra in the original series away from the side of Professor Elm's lab. He then turned and walked around the Pokemon and headed back downstairs. Once down there, I was in control again. When I turned back to check what other graves were, he simply said, "Don't go back." I decided to leave only for him to stop when I reached the entrance on the bottom floor. He stopped and turned around when a sprite of an NPC came up. However, it wasn't any NPC. It was Gold. He was all white, like he's transparent. And then he walked up to Silver and a text box came up. Silver, there's something I must show you. Then he started to leave Silver up to the tower. However, it was different. When he reached the 2nd floor, the Lavender Town theme came back, and it was normal. After each grave was a spike Gold, and he was all white like the one Silver is following. But each floor he climbed, there would be less and less of him, until there was none when he reached the 2nd floor. When we did reach the final floor, the music stopped completely, like it only played just for Silver to follow Gold. Gold walked up to his grave. Do not trust me after this, but he turned to his grave as Silver walked up. You've always been a close friend to me, Silver. I wish you'd come with me. You made the same wish, but I don't think it will come true the way you wanted it to. He faced Silver again, which is why you're coming with me. After a few moments, Silver backed up a bit. Another text box came up. You tried to use your Pokemon, but it failed. That got me confused. I had the chance to check my Pokemon team only to find that they're gone. I was in control of Silver now, and I went down to the tower as fast as I could, ignoring any obstacles that got in the way. On the way, I saw all the graves were purple, and there was a skull-like sprite in front of each grave. On 2 floors, there was one Pokemon that got Silver to stop. On the one floor, I pressed A and a little box popped up, like how it is in Yellow when you talk to Pikachu, and a picture of a Cyndaquil popped up. But there was blood coming out of the holes in eyes. Its cry was slower than usual. After I was through looking at it, a text box came up. Help Cyndaquil? A yes/no option came up. Too scared of Gold catching Silver, I pressed no. Sorry, Cyndaquil. Another floor. I pressed A, and the same box popped up with a picture of Typhlosion. Only its holes are bleeding, and it has no eyes. All there is a dark void, and it was bleeding from its eyes. There was a large cut that's been going across its neck down to its stomach. Its cry was also lower than usual. Help, Typhlosion? Same yes-no option box came up again. Again, I was too scared what would happen if I clicked yes, so I clicked no. Sorry, Typhlosion. I kept going down until I reached the bottom floor. Once there, Silver moved on his own and headed up to the middle of the top room. On top of the room, there was a door. A text box came up. Feraligatr, are you in here? It stood there for a second before I walked into that room. It was merely a small room, and it was all dark gray. No graves or anything. It was just a dark room. However, I heard Feraligatr's cry. I walked further until I saw a Pokemon there. I walked up to it and pressed A. A box came up and showed Feraligatr's sprite. Its cry was lower than usual. The Feraligatr's eyes were gone, and it was bleeding from its eyes. Its crests were also gone, and they were bleeding from there too. Silver stood from the side of the Pokemon sprite and stood there. After a few more seconds, a Celebi's cry was heard, and a Pokemon walked from the side of the room. It stood in front of Silver. Gold Sprite came in, which was the brightest sprite in the room because he was still completely white. A text box came up. Why do you run away from me? Am I a monster to you? A yes-no option box came up. I thought this through. I wondered what would have happened if I clicked no. Would he call me a liar like most games do? I decided to check that and clicked no. I wondered what Gold is thinking. He isn't a monster. I mean, I love Silver, but that doesn't mean I hate Gold. He's nice and cool. I was a bit surprised to see that he didn't call me a liar. Another text box came up. Silver, I'm glad. You're the closest friend I've ever had. Thank you. Relief came over me. However, it was short-lived. Celebi used Psychic. Silver died. I froze. The screen went black. After a while, it faded back in, showing Silver having no face. Gold merely stood there. Another text box popped up. It went very slow. I'll see you in the afterlife, Silver. It faded into black and faded in again. Gold disappearing along with Celebi. Silver merely stood there. I couldn't move, but I could press start. When I went to his trainer card, and this caused me to shake slightly. It almost made me sick. Silver's face was torn off. His face was just a red blop, and there was blood dripping down his face to his chest, and along his shoulders as well. His hair was redder than it already was. His arms were down and his head was hanging. After I was through checking his menu, the screen faded to white, going back to the tile screen. I pressed continue, a scene playing when a man stood in the middle of the floor when a rocket grunt came up and the text popped up. It stayed like that for a while, then the man turned to the grunt. After a while, the grunt walked away. The man went back to facing down. It was obvious that this was the leader of Team Rocket, Giovanni. He stayed like that for a moment before another text box came up. I'll swear vengeance. I'll rule the world now that those kids are out of the way. He turned to the left. Vengeance shall be mine. He walked out of the screen. Then the screen faded back in, and yet another text box popped up. Silver, I'm glad you came with me. My wish came true. Did yours? Silver and Gold sprite faded in. Silver faceless and Gold all white. It couldn't be the same without my rival, Silver. Silver face down. Let's see how Crystal is doing. I bet she's doing great. Gold face down. It faded to white. It went back to the tile screen. Shaking slightly, I watched a bit of Lugia swimming. I came to the main menu and attempted to click continue. You can't join us. Silence. I had no idea it was midnight when I looked up.